Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Life with Loverly podcast. How are you, Nichelle?
Doing great. How are you? It's Friday.
Yes, I'm so happy for the weekend.
Yes.
We are going to do a part 2 to our advice column that we recorded a few weeks ago. We received so many great questions, and as we were going through that last episode, we didn't quite reach all of the questions, and then some more came in, so we were like, let's record another advice podcast.
Absolutely.
So let's just kind of hop right into it because we've got a lot of questions to go over, and I feel like a lot of good conversation will come from all this.
For sure. For sure. So the first one was the best advice for a new working mom.
Ooh. Give yourself grace, I would say, is the number one thing. I mean, I'm assuming, I think, new working mom, going right back to work after maternity leave is over, you're trying to, navigate having a new baby, also going back into work. If you're nursing or pumping, that adds, a whole layer to your work day.
Yeah. I feel like you have to ask for help.
Yes.
Because it's going to be very tough, especially if you go back right after maternity leave. I don't know what it is now, but I think whenever it was 8 to 12 weeks was the norm. And you're still in that rough patch of getting used to consistency in anything. Right. And sleep is definitely not the number one priority. You need to make it a priority and ask for help.
Yeah. I think too, within the first year of a new baby's life, there's so many changing milestones that you feel like you get into a routine and then something changes, or now you need to start solids, or now the baby's crawling. So at the time that you thought you could just leave them sitting in their little seat and get some work done is now you're running around after them. So there's so many changes within that first year, plus adding on being back to work, but definitely give yourself grace, ask for help, and just know it's a season.
It is. It really is.
So the next one how are you able to unplug on the weekends or evenings? And if so, what is the advice that you have for that? This is really hard for me because my job is 24/7. People can consume my content that I put out at any time of the day. Mm-hmm. And so with that, there's messages that come in at all different times. There's times that we are, looking at stats to be hey, 9:00 on a Thursday is actually a really high shopping time. So we need to make sure that we have some content available at that time. So I feel at this point, we've put a lot of systems in place to kind of automate some things or schedule ahead of time, but I would say it's very hard for me to turn off and unplug. Anybody who's an entrepreneur knows that is just hard to do, but I've really tried to start taking off Sundays, where we try to not post on Sundays at all, to just give everybody kind of a break. And then a lot of times I will just put my phone in another room at certain times of the night.
You were even saying during dinner time, you try to walk away from your phone.
Exactly. So I kind of really try from 5 to 8 to be kind of as hands-on with my family as possible, do the bed and bath routine, dinner together, hang out before all of that, and then I'll pick it back up. And usually I try to not do actual work. It's more of just scrolling or consuming while we're watching a show or something.
And we try to pre-plan. That's something that we've worked towards, is try to pre-plan and get everything done by the end of the workday. So it's literally just okay, let's push this content and we push this because we've pre-planned all of that. And I think, that's definitely helped me too, but it's something that was we kind of talked about, we've got to figure out a way to unplug for a little bit to be our best selves.
Totally.
Coming back into it.
You also, don't you set an alarm at
I do. It's a newer thing for me this year, but I could work until I literally run myself ragged.
Right.
That's just, it's who I am. It's who I've always been. So I had to figure out I needed to take steps to be better to myself. And the one thing that my doctor said was sleep. Mm-hmm. It is so important. And it's going to be the number one cause for most anything that happens to you. So I was you know what? I just need to make sure I get 8 hours of sleep, make sure I'm I'm getting the rest that I need because I am nothing to nobody if I don't get enough sleep. I think that you realize that.
I am the same.
Yes. So I set a do not disturb. It's just like the sleep focus part of your phone, and it comes on at 8:30, and then my bedtime's 9:30. So I literally don't get any notifications, anything. I have to deliberately go in if I'm looking for something, but it's helped tremendously.
Yeah. It's funny because now that I know you have that set, anytime you do text after that, I'm like, what is she doing? Like, this is past her time of like talking to anybody.
I'm going through a season of my body not being able to wind down on time.
All right. So how do you cope with brain fog?
I'm still working on that.
Oh, yeah. I don't really know. I mean,
I think sleep. Yeah. It's so important. And I think a lot of water, and that's one thing that we're not great at.
Well, and I think I'm kind of getting to the point right now where I'm like, okay, so coffee doesn't actually solve everything.
No.
It, in fact, probably makes it worse. So I don't know. I think really like having a healthy diet, like making sure that like you're getting a good balance of nutrients. Because so much I feel like a brain fog for me is when I'm overwhelmed or I like haven't eaten enough in the day or haven't had enough water to drink. And then I'm just so like depleted from running like crazy. And then it's just like, oh, well, maybe if I eat like a high protein snack and drink 8 ounces of water really fast, like that
it could do a better job than the coffee that we're trying to intake.
Exactly.
Overpower the item. Yeah. I would agree with that. I'm still working on that. But again, I'm hoping to take steps. I sleep.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, I know going back to like the working new mom, like truly sleep. And it's so hard if your baby is not sleeping through the night yet.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend Moms on Call enough.
I'm so jealous. I didn't have that.
Oh my gosh. It is like such an amazing just guide to get your babies and children love routine.
Yeah.
Like that is just facts. And so to get them into a routine on like, this is the time we wake up every day. This is the time you eat your meals every day. This is the time you go to sleep, and doing that consistently, their bodies get used to a long patch of sleep. But the Moms on Call book and guidelines give you all of that access. I mean, I like have to have sleep. So I was like, this is just our only option. And both of my kids sleep 12 hours at night, and they have every night since they were 3 months old. Like sleep is so important for so many aspects of life. So like forever love the ladies over at Moms on Call.
Love that. So these next two kind of go hand in hand. Okay. As a boss, how do you have tough conversations with team members? And how do you give or receive constructive feedback, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, this is a tough one. And I feel like I'm not even like a pro at this, or what I would want to tell somebody to do. I feel like I sometimes like have a hard time doing it just because like tough conversations can always be like awkward.
They're never fun.
Right.
It's not if somebody enjoys it, then that made me a little nervous, but they're not something that anybody looks forward to. I think it's a matter of, it takes practice. If I've learned anything over the years is you have to be on that person's level. You don't approach it in the tone that you immediately want to approach it in. You need to approach it in the tone that they're going to receive it. And that takes learning people. Like you have to know how people receive that kind of stuff. There are some people that love tell direct, like, hey, like this is not great. Like we need to go back and we need to readjust this. That's something that I know I prefer, but I think somebody needs to know, like, hey, Brittany, just tell me. Just please tell me. I'd rather just know, let's fix it right now. Let's not beat around the bush.
Totally.
But there are some people that you do have to kind of like get down and be like, hey, I love what you're doing with this. Like it's almost like a compliment sandwich.
Yes, I was just
that's
thinking
like a
that.
great way. I think that's how I learned. But then it's like you grow comfortable with that you know how to approach it. You don't have to do a compliment sandwich because now I look at it and I'm like, but like soften it.
Right.
Whenever you're delivering the message. And I think that one of the things is you need to give reasoning, not just like, hey, why did we do it like this? It's supposed to be like this. Like, give the reasoning behind it. Like, if they can understand the reasoning behind why we're changing it or it shouldn't be done that way, I think it hits home differently as well.
Yeah.
So
I think just like talking through, like you said, giving examples. When I worked in my corporate job, we had something that was called like, if you had like you needed to have a tough conversation, it was called like, hey, why don't you pull that person and conference room them? And it was just meant like pull them aside. So like you're not like having a like tough conversation in front of everybody.
Right.
Take them, to a conference room or somewhere else, but like just be direct, be like kind of hit the nail on the head like when it's happening, and sometimes it's hard because it's like, well, let me like think about it, or maybe it's not that big of a deal, and then it like gets brushed under the rug, and then next time it happens again, and then you're like, okay, what the heck, like why did that person not fix it? And it's like, oh, well, I didn't even tell them that was a problem.
Yeah.
So just open communication too, and just, I don't know. I mean, I think in our office, I've told all of the girls like, hey, if anybody's ever bothered you or said something, or like, please pull them aside and just say like, hey, this hurt my feelings, or I didn't really like the way that you handled that, just have open communication. I mean, I think that goes like personally as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Because that's the only way to like kind of get past it.
Yeah.
If not, you're just going to be like upset, and then nobody's going to even know that you're upset.
Right. I think one key point to make is in the moment, if you find yourself being like, if you are super angry at something that's going on, take a moment and breathe. Articulate how you want that message to get across. I can guarantee you right now, it's not going to be productive if you're angry.
Totally.
So take a step back, breathe, and say, okay, why am I angry at this? How can I get this point across? If it takes 24 hours, take the 24 hours, because until you can practice like that restraint, you'd never want to go into a conversation angry.
Totally. Definitely makes it worse.
Yeah.
Next question. Would love to know what systems and apps you use to stay organized.
Yeah. I feel like the systems we use tend to be a lot different than what I would use like in the corporate world.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree? But I think that we have pretty good systems and apps and things that we put into place. We have to stay organized.
Yes. I feel like I just like to have a plan, to be organized. We need to have like structure. We kind of set up our weeks to flow a certain way so that we can like stay in line with what's going on. I think some things that are really important that we do daily is like to-do lists.
Yes.
I recently downloaded an app on my phone. I think it's just called Tasks, Google Tasks. And they have a widget that you can put on your home screen, which is just kind of, it looks like a little, like a plain box that it lists out like to-dos.
Yep. You just go on there, add something to your task list, type it out, and then when you're done, I love it because you check it and it just goes boop away.
Yes.
I downloaded it too because I loved it so much.
But there was so many times I was like, gosh, I wish I could like, I look at my phone so many times because, I mean, we're just in that generation where everybody's like, oh, phone out. And I was like, I really want a to-do list like right here. So when I pull this up, I can be like, okay, don't go to Instagram. Just go to your to-do list and knock one of those things off. So this Google Tasks has been super helpful for me.
And I think just breaking it down, we start with we have a content calendar. So we have like an acrylic calendar on the wall. And we love to be able to see that when we're in our conference room or if we're at the team area where we're talking through things. And then we also have it digitally on our Google Calendar. But that task list comes from those things because we can't, like, we can take the Google Calendar with us, but it's not forefront for the day. So it's almost like we pull for the day and put it on our task list, or like urgent needs, because we talk about urgent versus non-urgent and things like that. But there are things that are just more urgent within the day for us that we pull and put on that task list.
Absolutely.
And it's so helpful.
I think we also use the Notes app on our phone a ton.
We do.
We do a lot of shared notes. We have them for like tons of different things. If like Nichelle and I are just like working on ideas for upcoming reels, shared note for that. We have a shared note for like all of our brand partnerships that our like communication manager, she gets in there and like updates what all the details are, so that if we're out and we're like, wait, what was the need for that upcoming express project?
We're not having to search through email for it. It's so helpful.
Yes. Yeah. So that is a great example. I think another one that's kind of specific to creators who might be listening to this, shared photo albums. Like another huge help. I feel like once we started doing shared albums between, so if you're a content creator and you have like additional people on your team that help you place content in different places, putting it in this album is a really great way that it like automatically uploads. It's a clear, like it's in its clear, good form. They can download it right away instead of it getting like texted over.
And pixelating it and making it less quality. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a huge help. I know for the podcast, we use other apps like Slack, which allows us to communicate back with our like podcast manager and producer and everybody who's kind of involved with the podcast.
We do it on a very high level, Monday.com, just because we like to keep track of year to year over year, like collabs and things that are going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think just having systems in place and these type of things that just make our lives easier is, I mean, Chris and I even have shared notes with each other that are like, hey, grocery list, or we always talk about, like, in the holiday time, I always talk about how we have, like, a shared note for, like, gift ideas that we like, but we go through and update that, like, anytime. Like, the other day I saw a pair of shoes, and I was like, well, I'm not necessarily just going to, like, buy these for myself, but I'll put it there. And if he's ever like, oh, our anniversary's coming up, maybe let me see what she's, like, added to the gift list lately. That's, like, a great thing to have with your spouse, just so, you know, it's kind of like a list where, hey, I want these things. Like, I would love it if you got this for me for, like, a birthday or Christmas or whatever. So, yeah.
The next one is the best business advice that you have. Things that you've learned along the way and things you would do differently.
Wow. I feel like there's so many different things. I think the first thing would be hire help before you actually need it. I hired my first full-time employee back in 2018. So I'd been doing my blog for like a year and a half, almost 2 years full-time, when she came on. And I was like, immediately like, I need to hire somebody else. Like, just what I was able to delegate to her, I was like, we really need another one of you. And so I always tell people now, hire, if you, like, as soon as you start to feel like I'm overwhelmed, I'm drowning, hire help.
Yeah.
That would probably be my number one thing, because you can't do it all. Like, no matter what type of business you run, like if you're a photographer, if you own like a bakery, if you own a restaurant, like you can't do every aspect of the business and then still, you know, run things on the back end or do social media or be on the forefront all at once. There just like isn't enough time in the day.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, especially in this space, people are like, well, this is just like so personal to me. And how am I going to find somebody who like wants to support like me and help me grow? But it's definitely,
They're
out there.
Yeah. I would say, especially from an entrepreneur perspective, like you have to have goals.
Yes.
You have to have goals in place. Know what you're doing it for. There was a purpose behind what you did. And the thing is like, okay, in order to continue this, you have to put goals in place. That was, I think, something I learned a long time ago, personally and professionally, but also helps you grow and get to the next level, because then you can set new goals once you hit those and continue to grow and flourish.
So true. All right. This is a kind of personal one. What help do you hire out to maintain your life with work and being a mom? Do you hire cleaners, a nanny, personal assistant? Yes, I would say as soon as I learned to outsource some things to make my life a little bit easier, like things really turned around. I do hire cleaners, and I am forever thankful to them to be able to come home to a clean house. That is something I actually, when Chris and I got married, kind of early on, we set money aside in our budget to like hire a cleaning crew. And then he wanted to have somebody help with like lawn care. So I was like, you can have like, this can be in our budget as long as like a cleaner is in our budget.
Yeah.
So that's just something we have worked out for a while. And it just truly takes like so much pressure off of me to be able to spend time with my kids when I get home instead of having to make sure doing cleaning and things. We do have a nanny. I would say like nanny / babysitters that kind of help us with the kids. I mean, Chris and I both work full time. And so we've had to just figure out other ways to kind of make childcare work. And so that has been a huge help, and they help with like some personal assistant responsibilities as well. I would say for anybody like hiring babysitters, if you have kids, like that has just been such a game changer for us. I mean, it's hard to find sometimes people that you really trust.
Yeah.
But treating your nannies and babysitters well so that they become part of your family, essentially. I mean, that's how I feel about the ones that we have. And yeah, I mean, I just think anytime I get super stressed and overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, there's too many things on my plate. Like how can I hire help to just take a little bit of pressure off? And we've just found a way to make it work. And yes, definitely suggest if that's something that you can do is like hiring as much help as possible.
Awesome. So best advice for someone who just graduated college.
Ooh. I would say don't panic. It's such like an interesting time of life because I think there's so much pressure to like find this great job and like, you know, now you got to like get your own insurance and do all this stuff and like make a name for yourself. But I think you can like, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like really kind of think about like, what do you want to do? You have your whole life in front of you. I had 4 different jobs my first year out of college.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going to start my 4th job, my roommate at that time was like, are you sure you should take this? I mean, you've had like 3 jobs already this year. Like this doesn't really like look that great on a resume. And I was like, it just like my first job, I was a manager of a boutique, and there were just some things about the owner that just like, it just wasn't a good fit for me. So after about 2 months of being there through like the busy season, I was like, peace out. I got a job at a law firm doing some like, I don't even remember like what my job exactly was, but I was pretty much an admin assistant.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity 3 months after that to move to Atlanta, and I worked at Post Properties as a leasing consultant. That was such a fun job, but the hours were crazy. It was like we were closed on Sunday, so every Sunday was off, but we worked Monday through Saturday, and then you had 1 day off during the week, which was kind of cool. But then not having the consistent like 2 days off was really hard, especially as I'm trying to like just figure out life and going back home and seeing family, and you never had 2 days off. So then when an opportunity came for me to go into sales, I was like, okay, I'm just going to take it. And I was like, I know I've jumped around a lot, but then I found something that I really liked and stayed there for 4 years and then came into this position. So I think like, especially, I mean, my major was communications. Like it wasn't like I was like a doctor going like, I know this is like my clear path. Like, so I kind of think it's okay to try things. I sort of wish I would have like moved away and like gotten some cool internship in New York or experienced like another city. So I would say like if that's something that interests you, like just give it a try.
Yeah.
You're young, it's like there's
I think that's the
so
first
much
thing
you
I
can
think.
do.
I mean, I just talked to my daughter about after high school, and I think in 4 years, like she's still a kid. Like you're still a kid. I think like, 22 and you're still a kid. Like you're not always going to know exactly what you want to do. If you do, amazing.
Right.
Set your goals, get things lined up, but have fun.
Totally.
You're a kid.
I do even think going back to like setting goals, like what we talked about with business, but I think like taking some time right around your graduation or right after and setting some like 5-year goals for yourself, 3-year goals for yourself, 1-year goals for yourself, and just seeing where those goals take you.
Yeah.
Can only benefit you.
Yeah.
I mean, and if those things shift around, which is totally possible, at least you have something that you're working for, and that'll set you up for success and, for like the second part of your 20s.
Right. Exactly. Tips for a great interview.
Ooh.
Dress for the part.
Yes.
If not, a notch above.
Yes. I would say overdress.
Yes.
Like, be sharp, be polished, be put together, be on time.
Be early.
Be early. Absolutely. I think I always I think you can go with a classic black or solid colors, but I'm also a fan of kind of wearing something that might make you stick out in their mind a little bit.
I agree.
I think, I mean, you can't really help this, but like if you have a awesome name, then that's going to like help you stick out. But if you just have like, if your name is Sarah Smith and could potentially be like a bunch of other Sarah Smiths applying or some, like you need to do something to set yourself apart, which you can do in your outfit. As long as it is still like professional, put together, you look good. So I definitely think that's like a fun way to show your personality. I used to do interviews all the time for when I worked at Insight Global. I'd interview people who were coming to like work internally. And I just would always remember like if they were also asking questions about the company. So come prepared to like have some questions.
Yes.
I think whenever we've done interviews and it's like, okay, great. Well, like, do you have any questions? And it's like, no, I think you answered everything. And I'm like, you don't have literally any questions. Like, you're just good, like, so I think coming prepared, even if it's something we kind of like maybe already touched on in the interview, just bring it back up.
Yeah. Like I heard you say so-and-so, so-and-so.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of show that you're listening.
One of the things you just mentioned is something I learned a while back is a way to stand out and for somebody to remember your name, because I'm going to remember a name of somebody that, like, one of the tips that I use whenever I go in is I'm like, hey, my name is Nichelle with an N, just like Michelle, but with an N. And people are going to remember if you explain a little bit more about your name. They're going to be like, oh, that was different. Nichelle.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember Nichelle,
Yeah.
So
Michelle with an N.
Exactly. Some people tell stories about it. My name is so-and-so. Of course, my mother had to name me after da-da-da-da-da. That helps you remember,
It's funny because my last name is Sjogren, but it's spelled Sjogren, which looks like Sjogren or People are like, I'm not even going to try. Yeah. But so if you have a difficult name, like saying it, hey, my name's Brittany Sjogren. My last name is pronounced Sjogren, like you want to show a smile, Sjogren. And then they're like, oh, Sjogren, like smile, like, okay, So I think even if you have like maybe a normal name, but it's hard to pronounce, just give a little bit more to it.
Yeah. The other thing is confidence. Like when you go in and you're going to be nervous. There's going to be nerves, but kind of think through, why am I here? I want this job.
Right.
You need to tell yourself, and then you need to tell them by showing that confidence. I want this job.
Right.
Don't you need to believe in yourself when you walk through those doors. They're going to feel it if not.
Totally. All right. Have you ever had imposter syndrome? And what did you do about it?
What is that? I don't know. What is that?
I feel like yes. I mean,
who doesn't?
It's kind of hard not to in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, even not in this industry, in this day and age with social media and everything that's going on in the world, like, yeah.
There's definitely been times I've just been scrolling on Instagram and I see somebody else share something and I'm like, I need to, we need to stop everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
And we need to be better.
Yeah.
And share this. And we have, it's like you just all of a sudden like lose your mind.
Yeah.
And that's not like good.
Stay in your lane, put your blinders on.
I feel like when that starts to happen, it's like I immediately close out of all apps and I'm like, put this away. Like, I do not need to be pulled down by looking at social media, looking at what other people are doing. They have their own purpose for doing those other things, and that is none of my business.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes like the way I overcome it is by like getting in my try-on room or getting in my closet and kind of just like getting back in my zone.
Yeah.
Remembering what am I here for? Bringing it back to the basics, like looking back over like what are my values in this brand? What do I want to do to like make myself stand out and stay in my own lane and know that everything that I'm sharing is like so specific to the Loverly Gray brand. And then I feel like sometimes just what snaps me out of it is just like going and putting outfits together because that's where this all started. And I end up usually finding things that I'm like, oh, wow, like I love this.
Yeah.
So I think we all have it. I think you just cannot let yourself stay in those positions or let yourself be like, she has all this stuff and she's been on 10 vacations this summer and we're not even going on one, and look at their perfect little family. Like it's so easy
to do. Yeah.
Get in that mindset. But yeah.
All right, this next one got me excited. I pulled up. I don't know if you saw me pull up Audible.
I know. I was like,
what is she doing? It says, any self-help or self-improvement books that you would recommend?
What you got?
Okay, let's scroll on down. Let's go to all. I would say, so going into an industry where I was working for an entrepreneur, it's a very different business. It's self-improvement being as like for a business, but Traction was so helpful.
Yes.
It was so helpful to help guide us in the right direction in creating systems.
Absolutely.
So I definitely cannot recommend that book enough. And in some cases, you're only going to read about the first half of the book. We didn't need the second half because it was more of a corporation type setting, E-suite situation. But it definitely helped us. I mean, I feel like it catapulted the brand in a totally different direction by reading that book. And then Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I don't even have them in here. I guess they're actually books that I have at home. But Simon Sinek, Start With Why, really trying to uncover the reason why you do what you do. So it's going to be great for entrepreneurs or great for just you. Like, what's your purpose? You know, what is your passion and how do you... how can you facilitate an environment to be the best at whatever it is? Any of John Maxwell's books.
Yeah.
Leadership book.
Jen has talked about those too.
Yes. There's like the 5 levels of leadership, 7 principles of leadership. There's several different types of books that he has written. And a lot of them will have the same kind of message in them, but I found so much help whenever I just felt myself in a rut in the leadership role. I was like, let me go back to good old John. He's going to help me out.
I have been reading a book on my Enneagram number, and I will look up who the author is and share some of this stuff with you guys in the show notes and then in the Life with Loverly Instagram story when this podcast goes live. But it's been so interesting just to kind of really dive into my Enneagram, and it's kind of a little bit more on like the devotional side. So it brings like a Christian background as to like why I am the way I am, and when I feel these things, like what that kind of means or what kind of Bible verses I can lean into that, which has been really cool to see. And because it goes through like your strengths and your weaknesses. And when you're in a place of weakness, like here are some verses to remember that like you are enough, like you are worthy because this is what the Bible says. And then it can kind of like snap you out of that like weakness, which has been very interesting to me because I feel like just being a 3 and just like high expectations and like high levels of success and just standards I hold myself to, like that's not always necessary, you know, or like I don't have to be the best at everything because at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. So that one has been very interesting. There's a book by Joyce Meyer that I've been listening to lately. I believe it's called Beautifully You. I will confirm and put that in the show notes as well. But that's been like just very eye-opening and just kind of like, if anything, encouraging is like a yes, like, okay, like I am going to like take this stress off myself because that is unnecessary.
Speaking of energy, the energy bus. So that's great for if you are a leader, but also just reminding yourself of where to put your energy in life. It focuses a lot around, there's a lot of negativity out in the world, social media outlet channels, things like that. So you're going to have a lot of negativity around you, even if it's friends. And it kind of helps redirect you in that aspect of like, okay, how can I turn this into a positive situation and or remove myself from this situation? I think it's by John Gordon. But that was it's a really short read too. It's really great.
There's so many great books.
There are. I have a million on my shelf. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, if you ever find yourself in a place where you're like, I feel like I need to be lifted. I know that you're even rereading the Bible.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. I started reading, it's like a few chapters every day. And there's like things that happen that I find myself being like, wait a second, like it takes me back to like what I read that day, which I love because just as a Christian, I want to like have a biblical understanding and as I'm like trying to teach my kids things. So it's been just interesting, but I feel like I'm like relearning so much. It's wild. I'm like, I have questions. Like I need to like talk to somebody who's
as
like
an adult going back, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. I know, it's very interesting. But okay, next question is, how do you navigate the balance between taking risks and staying in your comfort zone? How do you handle uncertainty and the unknown?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I feel very passionate about this. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're going nowhere.
So true. I mean, it is hard, especially as a business owner. I mean, I think of like taking risks. Like there are some things we did last year, took some pretty large risks, and some of them worked out in our favor and some didn't. Yeah. And we kind of had to be like, we were like so confident that this was going to turn out a certain way, and then it didn't. And it kind of made us like go back to being like, where could we have, like, what could we have done differently?
Yeah. What lessons did we learn from this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think kind of if you do take a risk and it doesn't work out, learning from that, you know, and figuring out what is your next step forward. Like,
and it was meant to happen that way. You have
Right.
to remember it was meant to happen that way. I think if you go down a different direction, it's non-productive and you will never learn from it. But if you take the moment and you're like, okay, this happened for a reason. Why?
Yep.
And you keep moving forward. I mean, that's the beauty in that.
And I think like with handling uncertainty and the unknown, I am such a planner and I like to know, I like to be prepared, and I don't like that, you know, that feeling of uncertainty. But at the end of the day, like sometimes it's just out of your control.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that. And you are doing all these, like all the hard work to like hope that you don't experience that. But just also being aware, like, this isn't in my control. Here's everything I'm doing to hopefully go in this direction. That's all you can really do, I think.
Do you have any mentors or role models who inspire you to reach for your goals?
Yes, I do. I have a mentor who I love Jen Bowie is like, she's a life coach, but I always call her my therapist because she helps me with like all aspects of my life. And so I feel like she's somebody that I just look up to and really enjoy her advice. I think when looking for somebody like who is a mentor or who is somebody that you want to take a lot of advice from, like know what their values are, know like where they stand, and if that's something that aligns with you. You know, I mean, there could be somebody who is amazing and like gives great advice, but like you guys have conflicting values, you know? So, cause like when you're going to get in there and like dig deep, there might be some things that don't make sense. So really look for somebody who shares some of the same values that you do. I feel like I have like other role models in the industry. Like I love Blair Eadie. I look up to her more as just like, I just love the content that she creates. I think she's amazing at styling outfits, and but I really don't know much about her because she doesn't share a ton of that on her platform. But I just find myself being inspired by her. So I would definitely say she's a role model.
Yeah. My dad was for me. I think just knowing, I feel like if he took the Enneagram test, he would probably be a 3 too. But I saw him work so hard.
Yeah.
So hard our entire lives. Like he was barely home, workaholic, you know, trying to support, you know, a family of 4. And he never gave up. Like he worked so hard at what he did. And he's literally only had 2 jobs his entire life.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so crazy. Our parents' generation is so that way.
Yes. Yes.
My dad would definitely be another role model. He is retiring this year, or he's like in the start of his retirement. And so when he announced his retirement, a lot of people, like past players, he was the women's tennis coach, the head coach for the last 38 years. It's the only job he's ever had. So he's had like 38 years worth of like teams. And several of those players reached back out to him and just like sent him emails or text messages with like the nicest, kindest things. And so he would like read out a few of them to us. And like, I felt like some of those compliments were things that like I was striving without even like knowing that's where I was getting the motivation from, if that makes sense. Like it really confirmed how much I looked up to him when I heard those things that were being said about him, which I feel like, speaking of, I need to start figuring out what I'm going to say at his retirement party next year. Because that's, you know, I'm sure I'll be giving a speech of some sort, but yeah, I feel like parents are definitely, can be great role models.
Absolutely.
Okay. What is the most fun part of your job? Well,
being creative,
trying on outfits.
I mean, seeing places, like traveling. That's fun.
Traveling is so much fun.
I feel like we find so much inspiration doing that too.
And I will say that is definitely one thing that I am like blessed beyond measure to experience. I was talking with Kathleen Barnes, and she's another influencer that lives here in Athens. And we were both just talking about a trip that she recently went on and just travel that we'd been able to do with brands throughout the years. And it's just like unbelievable, some of the things that we've been able to experience just because of the nature of our job that we wouldn't have the opportunity to do or to do as often if this wasn't our line of work. So I am truly forever thankful and grateful to brands who invite me on these trips or hotels that like want to work with us, because it is truly like, that is like such a fun perk. Oh yeah. You know, I mean, we work very hard. So having some of these really cool perks definitely makes all the like craziness worth it. Agree.
Good gift ideas for someone hosting, or like as a thank you gift.
This is a fun one.
I feel like we kind of covered this on a Christmas episode, didn't we?
I think we did.
Wine. Yeah. We kind of talked about that. Like especially if you know the person and what they like, that's always a great one. And you had some like personalized like cards or tags attached to it.
Yeah, I need to get more made that's not like holiday specific ones, because I think just having just like year round ones is great, because then you can put your little tag on it. I went to my friend hosted a girls' night, and we played Bunko recently, and I saw a few people bringing like a magazine or like a table, like a book.
Oh, coffee book.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So they had like a magazine that was not just like one you pick up in like the aisle.
Yes.
That was like maybe a home magazine, but it was like thicker and pretty. And they had that like tied with some ribbon and a bottle of wine.
That's cute.
And I was like, that's actually like a great idea. I think another thing is a really good smelling candle that comes in a pretty vessel, something neutral that can go, like sometimes I feel like candles come in vessels that I'm like, I don't really want that like sitting out, or it's too many words, or it's maybe the candle smells amazing like Capri Blue, but it doesn't like it's not packaged in a good vessel. I recently found a candle up in Highlands that is just in this like really nice like white vessel with like these kind of bigger bumps around the side, and it just would go in so many different styles of homes. It's a really great scent. So I think that's always something fun.
Yeah. I agree. Those are like my go-tos aside from holiday.
I know. I think of also like if somebody's moving into a new house, making kind of like a little basket of essentials.
Yes.
I saw somebody one time do a bunch of cleaning supplies, and they put it in kind of like a big bucket that you like literally could use to like
a mop bucket.
Almost.
Yeah.
And they filled it up with just like, because if you think about it, like sometimes that might not be what's at your house first, especially if you're moving into a new house, or maybe you always are going to need more of that.
For sure. I feel like every time we've moved, we've had cleaner, but we've always had to go buy a bunch of things to move in. Yeah.
Or like new dish towels, new like cloths, just something that's just kind of like, it's practical, but you can make it pretty. I feel like that's always a great thing too.
Agree.
Okay. Tell us about life with teenage daughters.
Well, prepare yourself. It's fun. It's scary. It's not what I expected. I feel like I had great kids. Like I literally have no complaints about my kids being when they were younger. They hardly cried. They didn't like throw tantrums. Like I literally was blessed with such good kids. And I feel like that I guess should have prepared me for having a really scary time when they were older. Yeah. I just feel like, your limits get tested, and they're literally going to test you with everything. What can I get away with, Yeah. But COVID also hit in the middle of like my oldest being a teenager. And so I feel like that's very different compared to maybe what a lot of people go through, but they're going to be subject to things that, I was not made aware of a lot of things until I was a little bit older than they were, but like they just have so much more knowledge of things that they shouldn't know about at such a young age now. I just would suggest, honestly, being very open with your kids, having open conversation with your kids. I could not stress it enough. I feel that I've always been very honest. If they ask questions, I'm going to tell them. And I feel like for the most part, at least with my oldest, she's very open with me. I feel like she tells me most everything. If not, she eventually does. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, nothing will prepare you for it, but you're going to be fine. I think that, you'll get a couple of gray hairs like I did along the way, but.
Okay. So is there anything that you would go like, just in looking back, that you wish you would have done differently, or maybe like some rule you wish you would have like instated? Like, is there anything as a mom of teenagers that you wish you would have done, but giving advice to somebody who maybe is like following behind you?
Don't fall into the trap of giving your kids cell phones or access to social media as young as a lot of them are given.
Yeah.
It was a matter of like needing a phone.
Right.
But everything is available on a phone pretty much. So I just allowed it to happen at a younger age because they needed the phone.
Right. Which I think is like such a common.
Yeah. But
you know?
I think that I should have put a lot more rules down about what access they had and when they had it. So I think that's honestly, the biggest thing.
Yeah.
That still continues to be,
right. Like
an
an issue.
Yeah.
It's scary what is on social media or like what
Anything.
kids have access to. I mean, there's even times I'm just like scrolling reels and I'm like, this is seriously on the internet without any like, people should not be able to consume this. But yet it's available for any age kid. And I feel like kids are getting phones like earlier and earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, walk us through your process for packing bags for travel. Okay, I am not a good person to ask.
I don't even feel like I'm a good person to ask. We went on a one-night stay and I had my full 28-inch.
I know. I was proud of myself. I was like, okay, we're literally going to be, I need this and this. It's hard for me because I feel like wherever I'm traveling to, it's usually an opportunity to shoot content and give you guys more ideas on like outfits and things to wear. So I try to pack extra. I feel like I always end up, if we're going on like a 3-night trip, I'm for sure bringing at
12 pair of
least
underwear.
15 pairs of underwear. Like you never know.
That is definitely the advice we would give.
Overpack your undies.
Anything could happen, guys. Like we've had it happen.
Yes, we went to Charleston last year and it was literally so hot.
We were sweating through our underwear.
And we were
had to change
worried
several
that we
times
weren't
a day.
going to have enough. It's so funny. I don't know why that is like, okay,
it's a joke,
1,
but it's
2,
for
3.
real.
For sure, 5 pairs
three
of
times
overnight
three.
undies. And while we're here, I might as well just get the same amount
I
of
like
thongs.
these too.
Yes. I don't really, I think
I pack my essentials as I'm getting ready because usually it's like a morning. I get ready normally if I'm traveling most of the time, and I pack as I'm getting ready because I want to make sure I'm taking everything that I'm used to having every single day.
I make sure to make I use the Notes app in my phone, and I just have charger, silk pillowcase, pajamas, hair dryer, sticky bra, running shoes, socks. Some of the things that I'm like, yes, I'll for sure remember that. But then it's always like, oh yeah, the silk pillowcase, because I bring my pillowcase with me everywhere, or a tripod to make sure I've got that for when we're going to get there and shoot content, or extra charger, or make sure you have your AirPods and charged.
Right.
So I think just the pre-packing, I still do this, but Chris will always be like, hey, are you packed? And I'm like, yeah, so I've packed in my head. I just need to get it in the bag. He's like, that doesn't count. I'm like, yeah, but I know where it all is. I'm going to just go grab it and put it in the bag. But it's mentally ready to go. And he's like, okay, well, I'm ready to take it to the car.
Yeah.
So let's go.
I think of any time that I've come to your house the night before we went on a flight, it takes me all day Sunday.
I know.
I just have it on my bed all day, and I'm slowly adding, okay, this outfit. All right, this outfit. But I go through that anxiety of what if it snows and it's really only 92 degrees down there?
Yeah.
Or I'm like, what if?
What
I just
if
need to
I
have
decide
options.
I want to become a runner? I for sure
need
need
to
3
have-
running outfits now.
And my athletic shoes,
Yeah.
all of that. And then, okay, I need socks too,
Right.
because I'm not going to wear sandals to run.
And yeah. Oh, I mean, I love watching the people's TikToks and Instagrams that are here's all these packing cubes and look at all the stuff I fit in there. And I'm just that is amazing for you. I love that adventure.
Yeah.
For you. But that's
No.
I need several bags. I need options.
Remember when Lane brought 3 outfits for
Yes.
3 days, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm
We were
stressed.
this, what if something, she's like, but has that ever happened? I'm like, but it might happen.
might happen.
Okay, wrapping up this advice column with the best coffee shops in Athens. This is a fun one.
It is.
I love Jittery Joe's.
Yeah. That is special to hear, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Started
Yeah.
here I love Molly's coffee.
Yes, you do.
Love the owner. Molly herself is just a gem. They also have a drive-through, which I think is, if you're going to start a coffee shop, like local,
Yes.
have a drive-through.
Absolutely, 100%.
She has like an excellent interior, big like place for people that go work in there. You can have coffee in there. She has a great like outdoor patio, but the drive-through is key. I go there so much more because of their drive-through.
Yeah.
Like literally for the first 2 years of them being in existence, I never went inside. The first time I went inside was for that interview.
Shut up.
Yeah.
It's so cute inside.
Where else? There.
Those are the only two I know of in Athens that I,
Yeah, I feel like those
aside
are
from
like the
Starbucks, that's what we
great
frequent.
Like if I'm thinking, and it's kind of like depending on where I am in Athens, I'll be like, could we like swing and get a Molly's? It might be like sort of out of the way, but we can like make it in the way.
Yeah.
Or a Jittery Joe's. Like they have different, like there's different things I like at different places. But
Yeah.
I would say those are my two like must try coffee spots.
Love that. Well, this was fun.
I know. I feel like we had some great conversation and hope you guys enjoyed it. We will talk to you guys next time.